Hello everyone, Jay Coder here. I'm back with another stream for you all. Today we're going to be working with adding images to the dice roller app that we have been working on in the last few streams. And the images are going to be dynamically changing when the person rolls the dice. Each dice will have a different picture for the amount. So if you want to learn how to do something like that in an app, keep watching and you'll learn something new in Android development. My goal is to make you Android development masters, one stream and video at a time. So, alright, so without further ado, I'm going to get started here. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute my music here, and then for this code lab it's gonna be add images to the dice roller app. I'm gonna make sure this link is also in the chat here for everyone that would like to follow along, and of course it's going to be in the description for the recorded video later. Alright, and let us begin. Before you begin, in the code lab, you will add dice images to your existing dice roller Android app. Be sure to complete the earlier code lab on building the foundation of the dice roller app first. Instead of displaying the value of the dice roll in a text view, your app will display the appropriate dice image for the number of sides that was rolled. It will be a much more visual and enhanced user experience for your app. So instead of just merely showing the number representing the dice, the actual dice image is going to be shown. So you will be provided with a link to download the dice images, and you will add them as resources in your app. To write code for which dice image to use, you'll be using a when statement in Kotlin. Prerequisites completed the create an interactive dice roller app code lab, able to write control flow statements, if else when statements, able to update the UI of the app based on user input, modifying the main activity .kt file, able to add a click listener to a button, able to add image resources to an Android app, and what you'll learn: how to update an image view while the app is running, how to customize your app behavior based on different conditions using a when statement, what you'll build: a dice roller app that has a button to roll a dice and update the image on the screen. What you need: a computer with Android Studio installed, internet connection to download the dice images. Update the layout for the app. In this task, you'll replace the text view in your layout with an image view that displays the image of the dice roll result. So, alright, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over my screen so that you all can also see my Android Studio, which we will be using Android Studio for this code lab, this particular code lab. So let me go ahead and do that. Alright, so let me see here. So I'm going to go ahead and open this, and then I'm going to go ahead and display capture. Then alright, you guys should be able to see my screen now. I'm going to go ahead and open my Android Studio. Alright, here's my Android Studio. And so what it wanted us to do is it wanted us to add an image above the roll instead of the number. So I actually did that a little earlier already. So what you guys will need to do, if you still have the number there, then you're going to go ahead and change that. And also, I wanted to post this solution code. This solution code is actually the starter code to this lab. I'm going to go ahead and post that in the chat for you all. And so you're going to actually start with this code for this lab. But if you already did it, you can go ahead and pull that up in your Android Studio. So, all right. So make sure you set the proper constraints as well when you add the image. So basically, it's saying to delete the text view. So in the layout editor, select the text view in the component tree, right click and choose delete. So you're going to delete that. And tip, as you add more UI components and are okay, as you add more UI components and are adding and removing constraints, you may temporarily find one view overlapping another. Making it hard to select the one in the back. In that case, you can select a view by selecting the component tree instead. Right-click the delete or press the delete key. Ignore the warning on the button for now. You'll fix that in the next step. Add an image to the layout. Drag an image view from the palette onto the design view, positioning it above the button. So you're going to drag it over, position it above the button, and in the Pick a Resource dialog, select avatars under sample data. So you should see a spot that says avatars. When you drag over your image view, select avatars, and this is the temporary image you will use until you add the dice images in the next task. And then press OK. The design view of your app should look like this. So it should look like that. Also, I'm going to mention here the above link is the starter code for today's code lab. Alrighty. And let us continue. And then it says in the component tree, you'll notice two errors. The button is not vertically constrained, and the image view is neither vertically nor horizontally constrained. So usually when those things show up, we have to set our constraints. The button is not vertically constrained because you removed the text view below which it was originally positioned. Now you need the position to position the image view and the button below. You need to vertically center the image view in the screen regardless of where the button is located. Add horizontal constraints to the image view. Contact the left side of the image view to the left edge of the parent. So connect the left side of the image view to the left edge of the constraint layout. Connect the right side of the image view to the edge of the parent. This will horizontally center the image view. So you're going to drag from this circle to the end here, left and right, so that it can center this. And then next it says add a vertical constraint to the image view, connecting the top of the image view to the top of the parent. The image view will slide up to the top of the constraint. So this top part right here, you're going to drag all the way to the top of the parent, and it's going to stick there at first. And then add a vertical constraint to the button, connecting the top of the button to the bottom of the image view, but the button will slide up beneath the image view. So they also want you to connect a vertical from the button, connecting the top of the button to the bottom of the image view. And then now select the image view again and add a vertical constraint connecting the bottom of the image view to the bottom of the parent. So pay attention here. This may be a little bit tricky, but they said that they want you to select the image, and then instead of connecting the bottom constraint to the button, you're going to connect the bottom constraint to the bottom of the page so that the image itself will be centered and the button will automatically follow it. And then also, if you have a gap in between there, you should be able to adjust that as well. So let's go back to the Android Studio, and your image should look something like this. And then make sure that there's no space between the picture and the button here. And an additional thing I had to do was adjust this slider right here. So I adjusted this slider all the way up here so that the button can be under the image here. Alright. And then so your constraint warning should be eliminated. It should probably complain about the image without a content description. So I'm sure that the lab will have us correct that soon. So it says you may notice a warning on the image view in the component tree that says to add a content description to your image view. Don't worry about this warning for now, because later in the code lab you will be setting the content description of the image view based on which dice image you're displaying. This change will be made in the Kotlin code. 3. Add the dice images. In this task, you'll download some dice images and add them to your app. Download the dice images. Open this URL to download the zip file of dice images on your computer. Wait for them to download. Alright, I'll also post this URL in the chat for everyone to be able to download as well as they follow along here. So actually that didn't show up. Let me go ahead and get that really quick. So alright, I'm going to copy the link and the above is that going to be go to site? Okay, great. Alright, so the above link is the download link for the above link is the download link for the required images for this code lab. Alright. So it wants us to download the images here. Locate the files on your computer, likely in the downloaded folder. Select the zip file to unpack it, and then create a new Dice's images folder. Then this creates a new Dice images folder that contains 6 Dice image files displaying the dice from 1 to 6. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and extract to the downloads. Alright, so here's our dice images. So, and then it says add dice images to your app. In Android Studio, click the View Tool Windows Resource Manager in the menu, or click the Resource Manager tab in the left of the project window. Click the plus below Resource Manager and select Import Drawables. So inside our actual Android Studio, we're going to go to View Tool Windows Resource Manager, View Tool Windows Resource Manager, and then we're going to hit the plus, and then we're going to go to Import Drawables, and then we're going to go to our, let me see, our the folder that we just downloaded. Let me see here. Date added. Date added. Let me see. We go ahead and go to downloads, dice images. Okay. Cancel. Import drawables. That's a folder. Alright, so dice images, and then we're going to open those here, and then so we open these dice images, and then so what else does it want us to do? It says find and select the 6 dice image files. You can select the first file, then while holding down Shift key, select the other ones. Click the open, click the next, and then import to confirm that you want to export these 6 resources. If the files are imported successfully, the 6 images should appear in the Resource Manager app resources drawable for your app. Nice work. So let's go ahead and hit next. That. And we're going to say import. And then boom, all the drawable images were imported. Nice work. In the next task, you will make use of these images in your app. Important, you will be able to refer to these images in your Kotlin code with their resource IDs. Alright, so their resource IDs. Alright, so these are going to be each of our images here. And they're all the drawable files here. And then, let me see. So, let's go back to our project there. And then inside our drawables, they're there. And all right. So okay, so these are going to be our images. This is our layout file. And so, all right, let's go on. So use the dice images. Replace the sample avatar image. In the design editor, select the image view. In attributes, in the declared attributes section, find the tool source compat attribute, which is set to avatar image. Remember that the tool source compact attribute uses the provided image only inside the design view of Android Studio. The image is only displayed to developers as you build the app, but will not be seen when you actually run the app on the emulator or on the device. Click the tiny preview of the avatar. This opens a dialog to pick a new resource to use for this image view. Select dice_1 drawable and click OK. Whoa, the image takes up the whole screen. So let's do that and see what happens here. Instead of this image, it wants us to select the dice_1. Ooh. And then it takes up the whole screen. Which, of course, that's not going to be what we want. So, for the fix, next you'll adjust the width and height of the image view so it doesn't hide the button. In the attributes window under the constraints widget, locate the layout width and the layout height attributes. They are currently set to wrap content, meaning the image view will be as tall and wide as the content, the source image inside it. So it wants us to set the layout width and the layout height to wrap content. So let's go ahead and select this, and then the layout width. Alright, we're going to select our image, layout width, the layout height, it says it's already wrapping the content. Let me see. In the attributes window under the constraints widget, locate the layout width and the layout height attributes. They are currently set to wrap content, meaning the image view will be as tall as wide as the content. Instead, set a fixed width of 160 dp and a fixed height of 200 dp. Oh, okay. So it wants us to set the width to 160 dp instead of wrap content, and it wants us to set the height to 200 dp. So, all right, we can do that. All right, so I have done that. Oh wait, it defaulted back to the wrap content. Okay. All right. So I adjusted that to what they wanted. So that looks a lot better. The image view is much smaller now. You might find the button is a little too close to the image. Add a top margin to the bottom of 16 dp by setting the constraint widget. So they want us to, once the design view updates, the app looks better. So add a top margin to the button of 16 dp. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the button, and then we're going to add a margin. We're going to click the button, and then inside the constraint widget, we're going to click on the top where it says 0, and then they wanted us to add 16 to the top. So, all right. I went ahead and did that. So now this is what it looks like with a 16 margin. Once the design view updates, the app looks much better. Now use density independent pixels dp as the unit to define these dimensions so that the image size scales appropriately on devices with different pixel resolution. Change the dice image when the button is clicked. The layout has been fixed, but the main activity class needs to be updated to use the dice images. There is currently an error in the app in the main activity.kt file. If you try to run the app, you'll see the build error. This is because your code is still referencing the text view that you just deleted from the layout. Open main activity.kt app java com.example.diceroll main activity.kt. The code refers to r.id.textView, but Android Studio doesn't recognize it. Alright, so it wants us to check out this error that we have because we removed a text field that's not supposed to, or that's still being referenced in our main. So boom, yeah, line 34, we're trying to reference this text view, which is gone now because we deleted it and replaced it with an image. So within the roll dice method, select any code that refers to the text view and delete it. So any code that refers to the text view and delete it. So in the dice roll, this is some code that refers to the text view, and delete it. Alright. Alright. So basically both of these. Alright. 3. Still within role dice, create a new variable called dice image of type image view. Set it equal to the image view from the layout. Use the find view by ID method and pass in the resource ID for the image view r.id.imageview as the input argument. So this is going to be our new variable that we are going to put inside our roller dice method. So we're in our roller dice method. Alright. So this is going to get our image view, our reference to our image view. And then if you are wondering how to figure out the precise resource ID of the image view, click the ID at the attributes window. When you refer to this resource ID in Kotlin code, make sure you type it exactly the same, lowercase, capital, no spaces, otherwise Android Studio will show an error. So basically what it's talking about is this ID right there must also match with the ID that's inside the layout file that's associated with the image view. So when you go to the layout file and then you go to the image view, you will see in the ID section image view, and note the case where the I is lowercase, the V is uppercase. You also have to match that. So this has to be the exact same as in your Kotlin code. So make sure that matches. All right. When you refer to the resource ID in Kotlin code, make sure it matches. 4. Add this line of code to test that you can correctly update image view when the button is clicked. The dice roll will not always be 2, but just use the dice 2 image for testing purposes. Alright, so it wants us to set the dice image to dice underscore 2. So after we make the variable, we need the next line to occur after, which will set our image to dice underscore 2. Let me also see something. Let me delete that and then hit dot. And it auto-populates also a selection of what's available in the system, which we imported those drawables, so it has the ID to them here. So we're going to go ahead and select that. Or, I'm sorry, it said it wanted us to select 2. So we're going to go ahead and select 2. And then this code calls the set image resource method on the image view, passing the resource for image dice to image. This will update the image view on screen to display dice underscore 2 image. The roll dice method should look like this. So the roll dice view method should look like this. Alright, that looks okay to me. Yeah, that looks good. 5. Run the app to verify that it runs without errors. The app should start off with a blank screen except for the roll button. Once you tap the button, a dice displaying the value 2 will appear. So the dice should show 2 no matter what at this moment, since we don't have the logic yet to change to different dice for each number is rolled. So, alright, we have it here, and then when we hit roll, it brings up a 2. So it will do that for now because that's the only thing that we set. And now I'm sure they're going to have us add the logic so that it can switch between the different dice. You are able to change the image based on the button tap. You're getting it closer. Alright. Display the correct dice image based on the dice roll. Clearly, the dice result won't always be 2. Use the control flow logic you learned in the add conditional behavior for different dice rolls code lab so that the appropriate dice image will be displayed on screen depending on the random dice roll. Before you start to type code, think conceptually about how the app should behave by writing some pseudocode that describes what should happen. For example, if the user rolls a 1, then display the dice underscore 1 image. If the user rolls 2, then display the dice underscore 2 image, etc. Pseudocode is an an informal description of how some code might work. It uses some elements of computer language like if else, but describes the things in a human understandable way. It can be used for planning the correct approach to take before all the details have been decided. The above pseudocode can be written with if else statements in Kotlin based on the value of the dice roll. Alright, so here if dice roll equals 1, then set it to this, else if that. But, with Kotlin, with the new when statement, of course, they're going to want a neater approach, which we're gonna use. They're gonna use a when statement. Writing if else's for each case gets pretty repetitive, though the same logic can be expressed more simply with a when statement. This is more concise, less code. Use this approach in your app. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this when statement to update the dice roll function, roll dice method. In the roll dice method, delete the line of code that says the image resource ID to dice underscore 2 image every time. Dice dot image dot set image resource. Yeah, this one. We're gonna delete that and we're gonna replace it with this when statement that updates the image view based on the dice roll. So we're gonna go ahead and update the code here to set our image based on which dice is rolled. So instead of this, we're gonna use this. So now, if a 1 is rolled, dice will display the image for dice 1, dice 2, dice 3, etc. according to the 6 images that we have. The roll dice method should look like this when you're done with the changes. So boom 1, boom 2, boom 3, boom 4, boom 5, boom 6. Run the app. Clicking the roll button changes the dice images to other values aside from 2. It works. So let's go ahead and run it and see what we get here. So this is pretty exciting, guys. If you've never made a real app before, this is probably going to be your first functional app that does something that, you know, it even has some graphics on the screen that appears when you roll the dice. So that's great. Congratulations. And so when we hit the roll button, it will change to different dice amounts and change the image accordingly, which is really cool. So, I mean, you can come to this if you ever want to like choose a random number, or if you lost your dice and you want to use a virtual dice, you can come to your app and roll the dice here, and you'll never lose this dice because it's digital. So that's awesome. All right, so let's go back and it says run the app. Clicking the roll button changes the dice image to other values from 2. It works. If you want to write even more concise code, you can make the following code change. It doesn't have any visible impact to the user of your app, but it'll make your code shorter and less repetitive. You may have noticed that the call to dice image.set image resource appears 6 times in your when statement. The only thing that changes between each case is the resource ID that's being used. This means you can create a variable to store the resource ID to use. Then you can call dice image.set image resource only once in your code and pass in the correct resource ID. Replace the code above with the following. So if one, so okay, you can actually set the when statement to the result of the when statement. So you can set the when statement to a variable. So that's interesting. So we're gonna go ahead and then down here, whatever ID that we get back, we're gonna pass it in to the set image method. So let's go ahead and do that for a cleaner approach. What did I do? I deleted a little bit too much. Alright, so we are setting this variable. When expression must be exhaustive. Alright, let's see if they have anything to say about this error here. I'm getting error when expression must be exhaustive, add necessary else branch. Let's see if they're also on the same page here. A new concept is that a when expression can actually return a value. With this new code snippet, the when expression returns the correct resource ID, which will be stored in the drawable resource variable. Then you can use the variable to update the image resource displayed. Notice that the when is now underlined in red. If you hover your pointer over it, you'll see an error message when expression must be exhaustive and add necessary else branch. The error is because the value of the when expression is assigned to drawable resource, so the when must be exhaustive. It must handle all the cases possible so that a value is always returned. If you change to a 12-sided dice, Android Studio suggests adding an else branch. You can fix this by changing the case for 6 to else. The cases for 1 to 5 are the same, but all others, including 6, are handled by the else. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to add a else branch. And then actually it wants us just to make it 6. So we're going to do that. So that means it has a case for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the only thing left should be a 6. Hopefully a negative number or a higher number is not somehow passed into this thing, but the proper numbers. But alright, so it told us to update that. Alright, guys, and says run the app to make sure it works correctly. Be sure to test it enough to make sure that you see all the numbers appear with the dice images 1 through 6. Alright, let's go ahead and test the app to make sure it is remaining working. Five, 6, 3, 1, 2, 3. Alright, it looks like it's working good. Set an appropriate content description on the image view. Now that you've replaced the rolled number with an image, screen readers cannot tell anymore what number was rolled. To fix this, after you've updated the image resource, update the content description of the image view. The content description should be a text description of what is shown in the image view so that screen readers can describe it. DiceImage.content description equals dash roll to string. Screen readers can read aloud this content description, so if the dice roll of 6 is displayed on the screen, the content description would be read aloud as 6. No, normally a content description should use string resources that can be translated into other languages, but we'll get into this in a future lesson. So we can go ahead and set our content description by code to this. After we set our image resource, so image resources that dice image description is the dice roll to string. All right, awesome. And that's just for accessibility reasons, so that, like, for instance, someone that's visually impaired can also be able to know what's going on in the app. Normally, a content description should use. So, all right, I read that. And let's go ahead and go to next. And all right, 6. Adopt good coding practices. Create a more useful Lodge experience. When the user opens the app for the first time, the app is blank, except the roll button, which looks odd. Users may not know what to expect, so change the UI to display a random dice roll when you first start the app and create the activity. Then users are more likely to understand that tapping the roll button will produce a dice roll. So, alright. So, inside the onCreate method, it says okay, so did they change anything here? So val roll button. So this button, they're getting a reference from the button. Roll dot set onclick listener dice roll dice. Let me see. So we're going to go over here to our to our onCreate method. So super.onCreate set content val roll button roll dot set click listener roll dice. Okay, so what it wants us to do is do a dice roll after things are set up, so that it will automatically do a dice roll by itself and display something on the screen just so the user can see that. So let's go ahead and do that and see what happens here. So I'm going to stop, and I'm going to go ahead and play it. Alright, so it automatically did a dice roll for us at the beginning so that we do visually see the dice here. when it launches. So that's great. So when it launches, we call the roll dice, which was inside the oncrate. So oncrate is one of the first functions that are called when the activity is created. So when this is called, when the activity is created, we'll automatically do a dice roll. So an oncrate is part of the activity lifecycle, which I would encourage you guys to study as well. So if you notice when I ran it again, it showed a dice. It rolled the dice and rolled a 6 that time. So that's working. So all right, great. And so it wants us to comment our code. Add some comments to your code to describe what is happening in the code you wrote. After you've made all these changes, this is what your dice roll method might look like. Alright, so a good practice is to comment your code. So this when statement determines which drawable resource ID to use based on the dice roll. And this finds the image view in the layout. And this update the image view with the correct drawable resource ID. And this is update the content description for accessibility reasons. So I'm adding the comment there. And then for the full main activity.kt file, see the solution code on GitHub linked in the next step. Well done on completing the Dice Roller app. Now you can bring this app to the next game night with your friends. And I'll leave this as an exercise for you all, but this is the solution code to the code lab that we just worked on. So I'm going to go ahead and post that in the chat as well. And also will be in the description for you guys to be able to check out the solution. If you also haven't had the time to be able to build that on your own, but whenever you do get the time, I encourage you to build it from scratch on your by following the code lab so that you can get the most out of it. To get the so I leave that as an exercise for you guys to get the code if you need it. And then the summary, use set image resource to change the image that's displayed in an image view. Use control flow statements like if else expressions or when expressions to handle different cases in your app. For example, showing different images under different circumstances. All right. And learn more. I encourage you guys to go over these links, such as the Android Kotlin glossary, if expressions, when expression, image view.set image resource, which is a new thing. Well, yeah, that this is, you know, one of the key concepts we were going over, and accessibility. And then I give you all this as a exercise to practice. Come come to section 10 and see if you can do the task that they ask you here. And yeah, so this channel's about getting you to be a pro Android developer. And we're going on this journey here on this channel. And so, if that sounds good to you, please subscribe to this channel. Also, comment below on what you think of this lesson. If you have any suggestions or feedback, please feel free to comment. And if you like it, go ahead and hit the like button. And, well, that's going to be it for today, you all. And what I'm going to say to you is keep coding. All right. Until next time. Bye.